Good morning. I'm Kate Stewart, the Council Vice President and District 4 Representative, and I'm glad to be here with my colleagues on the Transportation and Environment Committee today for National Pedestrian Safety Month Proclamation. And thank you, everyone, who's coming. I'm just going to have folks quickly say their name and organization, and then we'll just say a few words.
I'm Dava Ludwig, and I'm with Compass Inc.
My name is AJ.
Hi, AJ. Thanks for coming.
My name is Rhonda Golder, and I'm with Compass Incorporated also.
Melissa Regan, Germantown Pedestrian Safety Task Force.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Wade Holland, the Vision Zero Coordinator with the County Executive's Office.
Peter Gray, Montgomery County Families for Straits and the Washington Area Bicyclist Association.
Rodney Jackson from SEEK.
Mary Bonnet from SEEK.
Taylor Wilson.
Katrina Kugel from SEEK.
Mindy Baden from Montgomery County Families for Safe Streets.
Dan Langenkamp, husband of the deceased Sarah Debink Langenkamp.
His son.
His also son.
I'm sorry.
No worries. Warren Jensen, County Police Director of Traffic Operations Division.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm just going to say a few words before turning it over to my colleagues. We'll read the proclamation, and that'll talk about some of the statistics we see here in Montgomery County and in Maryland. But the reason all these people are here today is because behind each number is a family, is an individual. And we need to do proclamations like that so we remind ourselves that when we're talking about safety and pedestrian safety, we're really talking about people. And the impact when we have a pedestrian death, it has on our whole community and on individuals. And in particular, I'm so glad we have members of SEEK here and Compass. We have family members. We have some older residents, younger residents, because pedestrian safety does impact all of us, but in particular impacts some communities more so than others. And we need to remember that many of our outcomes in our community, our health outcomes, when we look at where you're comfortable to walk and other things, does impact our communities that are have disability issues or people of color more so than others in our community. And so it's really important as we move forward with policy changes and looking at this across our community that we keep everyone in mind, and particularly those who are most impacted. And now I'm going to turn it over to our chair of our Transportation and Environment Committee, Chair Glass.
Thank you very much, Vice President Stewart. I want to thank everybody for joining us today because we have a serious problem on our roads in Montgomery County. There are far too many people who are hit while walking and biking and rolling, and we need to slow people down. We need better enforcement. We need to make sure that everybody is safe so that they can safely travel to get to where they want. Already in the first 10 months of this calendar year, there have been more than 400 people who have been hit on our roads while walking, biking, and rolling. It's far too many people, but those numbers are our family members, our neighbors, our loved ones, and the folks who have joined us here today are that support system to continue pushing us to do better, to make our roads safer for everybody. But I just want to call out two individuals who've turned their personal individual tragedy into advocacy. I appreciate the work that you all have done, recognizing that the pain you have felt from personally losing a loved one, making sure that nobody else feels that again. And Dan and Mindy, and to your families, that's probably the greatest level of public service that can be given, making sure that nobody feels the tragedy that you have felt and making the world a better place for your kids and for everybody else who use our streets. So thank you to everybody who is here. Thank you to all of our colleagues in Rockville and in Annapolis who are doing everything they can to make more people safe on our roads.
Thank you. I'm Marilyn Balcombe, Council Member for District 2 on the Transportation and Environment Committee. And thank you for being here. I want to thank all of our community partners for all of the work that they do to continually remind us of our responsibility. We need to make sure that our streets are safe, our intersections are safe, our sidewalks are safe. We need to make sure that people don't lose their lives when walking to and from wherever they're going. Just yesterday, we had an update on the Safe Streets Act, and while we still have a long way to go, we're making progress in making sure that our intersections are safe, most particularly our intersections at schools. And it's our responsibility to make sure those are safe. I want to thank my colleagues, Chair Glass and Councilmember Stewart, and the entire Council for understanding the commitment that we have to make sure that our streets are safe for walkers, bikers, scooters, anybody who's not in a car. And part of that is we need to make sure that when we build infrastructure, when we build housing, retail, commercial space, that it is walkable. The more people who are walking in a community, the studies show that drivers slow down when they see pedestrians, and it's a positive feedback loop. The safer it is, the more pedestrians are out. The more pedestrians who are out, the more drivers understand that they need to be cognizant of pedestrians. So we need to do a better job. I just want to mention two upcoming things, very imminent: Halloween and the time change. So please make sure Halloween, the little ones come out early, the teens stay out late at night. So please make sure that you're aware if you're driving on Halloween, please make sure that you're safe and that you're watching for pedestrians who may not be walking in a pattern that you're used to as a driver. And the other thing is the time change. It's a very dangerous time for drivers and pedestrians when the time changes. We're not used to driving at dusk, and people who are walking aren't used to being in dusk. So please watch out for those two times. And again, I appreciate everyone being here and the role that you play in keeping our streets safe. So thank you.
Thank you to my colleagues. Now we're going to just hear from two folks today. As Council Member Glass said, we very much appreciate Mindy for being here so she can speak, and I just very much appreciate how much you show up in our community and continue to advocate. And so if you want to come up and say a few words. Thank you.
January 16th will mark 5 years. Is that okay? Since I've been without my son, Brett. He died while he was crossing the street just trying to meet some friends for dinner. He was 32 years old. There was no reason for him to lose his life, and there was no reason for my family to be without our son. There are a lot of families in Montgomery County like mine. They're mourning the death of their loved ones from the streets. Every time we see a story on TV, or we hear a story on the radio, or we read a story in Moco 360 about another pedestrian or bicyclist losing their lives, we all think back to the bad memories and the pain. And the question, why does this keep happening? In the 23 days between September 24th and October 16th, in the news, there were 9 pedestrians involved with crashes, 4 of them fatally. But what we don't hear on the news was the several dozen other crashes that involved pedestrians and bike riders. This doesn't have to be. As a county, we can do better. Today's proclamation brings some encouraging news. The county has been working towards implementing the provisions of the Safe Streets Act, which was passed last year. The 2024 Automated Traffic Enforcement Plan is out, and there's going to be a lot more red light cameras and speed cameras coming. And some of our county politicians are working with our state delegates on laws to enforce stricter penalties for reckless driving. We have a complete streets plan, we have a Vision Zero plan, and we have a pedestrian master plan. What we need to do is connect all the dots and make the streets safer for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy, for that. And now we'll have Dan and his sons come up. And thank you for being here with us today.
Great, thank you. It's good to see everybody here today. Andrew, good to see you again. Evan, thank you. Kate, thank you all for inviting us here today. I brought Oliver and Axel. We're going to see a dying aunt today. That's why they're out of school, but it's so great that they're here. And thank you for these pencils, which they begin hitting each other with immediately. So Axel's and Oliver's mom died 2.5 years ago in August of 2022, just after we had been evacuated from Ukraine, where we were working as U.S. Diplomats. She had been riding her bike home from our kids' elementary school, which they were due to start basically the next day. And she died simply because she made a decision to ride her bike home from the school. I think we can all agree that riding a bike shouldn't be a life or death decision. But somehow we have built roads in our country where that's the case. And I think we can all agree that that's not the way it should be. We should have communities that are easily walkable, that are easily bikeable. She was in a place she was right across the street from an ice cream store and a Whole Foods and a place full of pedestrians. But yet traffic races through there on a state highway that needs to be changed. I just want to thank today everyone, the council members, for your political courage in this whole effort, because we face a real battle to change people's minds about convenience in our country. We get in our cars, we drive quickly, and we think that we are in a protective bubble and no one should slow us down. And we don't quite realize how dangerous our vehicles are. We're more distracted than ever. We're in cars that are bigger than ever. And there is a real problem with enforcement on our roads today. So I want to thank the council members again for your courage in trying to change this tide, this crisis that exists in America, with more people dying and more on the roads walking and biking and rolling in one form or another than ever before, or at least in the last 40 years. So thank you, and let's keep up the fight.
Thank you again to Dan and Mindy for sharing your family stories with us. And as we saw before, we have representatives of our police department here, our county government, because this is really a full court effort we need to make our safer for our pedestrians, our bikers, and everyone else in our community. Now I'll ask my colleagues to come up and we'll read the proclamation. Whereas October marks National Pedestrian Safety Month, a time to raise awareness about pedestrian safety and promote initiatives to reduce collisions and fatalities involving pedestrians and cyclists, and
whereas in 2022, there were an estimated 67,336 pedestrians injured and 7,522 pedestrians killed in traffic crashes in the United States, which is the highest number of pedestrians killed since 1981. And
whereas, according to the Maryland Department of Transportation, in 2023, there were 159 pedestrian fatalities in the state of Maryland, 15 pedestrian fatalities of which took place in Montgomery County. In 2023, there were also 15 cyclist fatalities in the state of Maryland, one of which took place in Montgomery County. And
Whereas numerous studies show racial and ethnic disparities in pedestrian safety stem from a lack of safe transportation facilities and safety structures, including crosswalks, signals, and refuge islands, which disproportionately affects residents in low-income communities and communities of color, causing them to be more likely to be injured and or hospitalized from collisions. And
whereas pedestrians and motorists can take proactive steps in ensuring the safety of all road users, such as preventing drunk and distracted driving, using crosswalks and signals, and remaining alert, especially in conditions with reduced visibility. And
whereas children, older adults, and people with disabilities are often at higher risk of serious injury or death from motor vehicle collisions. Local governments, community organizations, and residents must work collaboratively to foster a culture of safety that prioritizes pedestrian needs. And
whereas National Pedestrian Safety Month serves as a reminder of the importance of investing in pedestrian and bicycle safety infrastructure, the role of education and enforcement, and the shared responsibility of drivers, pedestrians, and all road users. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland, hereby recognizes the month of October as National Pedestrian Safety Month, presented on this day in October in 2024 by myself, Councilmember Glass, Councilmember Marilyn Balcombe, and Council President Friedson, on behalf of the entire County Council. Thank you, everyone. I'm just gonna